Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about the books I read in September, and I'm excited to share these things with you. So if you're new to my channel, I created this channel as a homeschooling resource to do different curriculum ideas, organizational ideas, and ways to invite Christ into your homeschool space. So if you're interested in those things, please hit that subscribe button and let's talk about books. So this month I read 4 different books and I had a lot of fun reading them, and I learned a lot of different things. They were from very different genres, so they all were just a lot of fun and took my brain in a whole bunch of different ways. So the first one I wanted to share with you is Dear Edward, and this was our book club book for this month. We're not actually like meeting together, but we still had a list we created at the beginning of the year, and so I've been working my way through that every month just to get a variety of books, and so this was the one for September. And I actually really learned a lot from this book and I really loved it. It is a sad book. It's not a surprise that it's a sad book. It tells you in the description that it's going to be sad. So it's about an airplane crash, and Edward is the only survivor from this crash, and his family was on this plane. You know, there's lots of other people on this plane that all died, and he's the only one that lived. And so the way this story is written is absolutely fabulous. I love it so much. Just the way it was thought through, I feel like is almost therapeutic in nature. It goes back and forth between the plane, people on the plane, and then Edward in the future after the plane crash. And so it's kind of bouncing back and forth almost the whole entire book. And it's just so good. I really enjoyed that aspect of the book. And you just really get to know the people on the plane. You get to know Edward, especially after, and you get to see him go through these stages of trauma and kind of be pushed by his aunt and uncle who he ends up staying with, and then a friend. And just, you know, he is still struggling. He has a really hard time, and not saying that you just ever get over something super traumatic, but he's able to find a new life and kind of discover what his mission is now after this traumatic experience. And I just think it's really beautiful. I also really loved that it just made me think it's important to let our kids see hard things or experience horrible things. Not that we're wishing for those things, but to also teach them, you know, about things throughout history. Just be real with them. It doesn't mean we have to be like morbid or share horribly gory things or anything like that, but just let them know, like, hard, horrible things happen in the world. And all of us are having to go through different struggles. And I feel like that's so important for kids to realize, to know that life isn't just gonna be a walk in the park. And also for them to be able to relate to other people, you know, to be more kind and things like that to others. I think it's important for them to know that life is just gonna be hard. And so I really enjoyed this book. It's, you know, it's a fiction book, but it was just so very good. The second book I read was The Little Book of Hygge. I actually sort of mentioned this in my book review video for, what was the month before September? August, that month. So I talked about this a little bit because it was mentioned in one of the other books I read for August. And so I pulled this out. This was actually a gift that was given to me last year from a friend around Christmas time, because in our church group we did talk about Hygge and had a little activity that had all these little Hygge, you know, feelings and stuff like that. It was really great and lots of fun. And so then she gifted me this book for Christmas, and I didn't read it until this month. And it was super quick to read. I read it like in a few hours on a Sunday afternoon. So it doesn't take long to read, but I actually really enjoyed it, and I enjoy this concept. So it's Danish Secrets to Happy Living. And it just goes through and it gives a great background on Denmark, which I think would be so great for homeschool. Like if you wanted to go through and learn more about Denmark, you could read the beginning of this book, and it talks a lot about their customs. And again, Hygge is a huge part of their life and their lifestyle, especially because it's dark there. So much of like winter time, it's just dark. It's kind of like Alaska in that way. And so this is how they make it cozy, and they kind of like get through it, and they burn so many candles, like crazy amounts of candles. So I really loved it, and it's a cute book. Like I said, it's a very quick, simple read, and but it just has a lot of great ideas. It has some recipes in here they use. It talks about the different parts of Hygge. So I also thought it would be fun if you did go through this with your kids around like this holiday, as we're going into holidays and winter time as well. At least where I live, it gets very wintry. I know some people live in nicer places, but I don't really want to live in those places. But if you live in those places, enjoy your sunshine and warm temperatures all year round. Anyways, but if you're gonna be getting, wrapped up in blankets and sweaters and everything pretty soon, this would be fun to decorate your house in this way and have your kids help so they could read through it and just kind of discuss, okay, well, we could put candles here, or it talks about bringing in natural elements, so wood, and also like some brown branches, like from pine trees, like Christmas trees and things like that. And just all those smells and everything associated with Christmas is basically this type of living. So I really love that. Something else I thought that was fun, this book talks about introverts and how Hygge is really good for introverts, because Hygge is usually these small groups of gathering in like 2 to 4 people. And that's what, introverts don't want to be with a huge group of people. Usually they like smaller gatherings, and that's more comfortable for them. And so Hygge is introvert friendly, which I am an introvert. I know it might not seem like it because I'm sitting here talking to you, but I love being at home. I love just being cozy. I'm fine with having a few people over. I don't mind hosting bigger events, that's fine, but I just really enjoy being at home and being cozy. So Hygge is for me. It also just talks about having this simpler lifestyle and kind of getting rid of so much busyness in your life and focusing on what's really important to you. And in Denmark, I don't know exactly what happened, so don't quote me on this, but they switched kind of their work schedule. So by 5:30, most dads or moms, whoever's working or both, are home from work. And so they have all this time with their children in the evenings. And they're like, if you work after that time, everything's just dead. Nobody's out anymore. But just this transition that they made as their culture and as their country to try to put a more focus on spending time with family. So I just thought that was really cool. And I know we don't all have the ability to do something like that, at least not exactly, but there are areas we could probably improve what we're doing and make choices to spend more time with family or to serve or just do things that are a little bit more important than just filling our lives with all the things. So I really enjoyed this book. I just think it would be a fun cultural thing too to do with your kids in a homeschool setting. So the third book I read was A Parent's Guide to High-Functioning Autism Spectrum Disorder. It's a really long title. But as some of you might know, I've mentioned in a few videos before, my oldest, who's almost 9, has ASD. And so I had gotten this book a while ago, but just had a chance to read it this last month, or made time to read it. But I really, really enjoyed this book, and I feel like it has so many good pointers and just ideas for people that are new to autism or to those that are kind of veterans to autism. And so this book is split into 2 parts. The first is understanding autism, and the second is living with autism. So the first part goes through some of the tests that are done, some of the treatment options, what's going on neurologically or not. There's a lot of, they don't know the exact causes for autism. So it goes through some of the theories and ideas, the different research that's been done. So I thought that was really good. And then the second part kind of covers from preschool to adulthood and all the things that you might experience and see, what could be helpful, what maybe isn't as helpful. And so it's a book you could read, the whole thing as one collective thing, which is what I did, or you could just kind of pick and choose what is interesting to you or kind of what stage you're at. And I think that would be really, really helpful. So this book really just was so amazing. And I really, really liked it. Obviously, there's always things you may not totally agree with or might not completely understand in books. But then there's also things that I just really loved. And I have my finger in here, if you can tell, in a few places, because there's some quotes I really loved. These are also on my blog post, which I'll link all my book reviews for these books down below. So if you want to look at those, you can. But one of the quotes that I really loved, I'm not going to share the whole thing, but I just really love how it says, begin the process of embracing the characteristics of ASD for both your child and you. And then it continues talking about just learning to love that child for who they are, because if they didn't have ASD, they would be different. Their personality would be different. Those things that you really love about them wouldn't be there. And so just learning to embrace that and just to love them for who they are, I feel like that's a very Christ-like thing to learn to do. That's what we should all be doing for everyone. And so to be able to do that with our child, I just really love that quote. So the whole thing is on my blog if you want to check it out. And then the other quote that I just love so much was this one. It said, I developed my talent area. Often we put too much emphasis on the disabled area. So it talks about, you know, all of us, anyone, doesn't matter who it is, whether you have ASD or not, or have some other issue or disorder or mental illness or whatever physical ailment, we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses. So it says, you know, find your talent. I found my talent area. You have to focus on the skills you are good at and figure out how to use them to work around your disability. And I just thought that was really beautiful for all of us, and for having a child with ASD to focus on those things that they're good at, those things that they love, and find ways to help incorporate that into their lives instead of focusing so much on what's wrong with them. And I think that's good for moms too. Don't focus on all the things about you that drive you crazy. Find those things you're good at, recognize those things you're good at, and like give yourself credit for being awesome. It also just shows the importance of teaching your kids according to their interests, because everyone has different things that just are so exciting for them to learn about. And so if you're teaching your kids all the same way, then maybe it's not exciting. Maybe they'll push back against you. But if you find that thing they love, school might just become so exciting for them. And I know I get stuck in just like, okay, let's go through the math and the reading and everything like that, instead of maybe putting a little bit more effort into picking things that my kids just really love and that would get them really excited for learning. So those were just a few highlights from this book. There is really so much good stuff in here if you want just an overall guide to ASD. The fourth book that I read is Homeschool Bravely, and it's a pretty like quick read. My finger's in here again to show you something. But it was pretty quick and it's just very cute. It's so full of nuggets, like just such good nuggets. And it also just makes you feel so good. Like you could go out and conquer the world. I love Jamie Erickson's energy and just her excitement in what she's teaching. It's beautiful. And she's a very strong Christian. There's so many like great Bible stories throughout this whole book, and I just loved reading them all. I loved having her perspective. And so she goes through homeschooling and talking about like it is hard, how she's gotten pushback from people, from her doctor telling her like this is not the best thing for your kids. You know, you get pushback from other people saying your kids aren't going to have good social skills or all those things. You know, all the things that you're probably used to hearing as a homeschool mom. And so she kind of just gives you this pick-me-up and this, you can do it, you can keep going, and to be brave in your decision, and that it's a calling from God is a big emphasis of her book, is that he's called you to do this, to teach your children. And so you couldn't do it by yourself, but with God you can do it. And so I just thought it was just so beautiful how she wrote this book. Something else that I thought was so beautiful in this book is that she talks about even on those bad days, or just absolutely horrible days, or those days you can't homeschool, maybe someone's sick, maybe kids aren't listening, they're all being crazy, or you know, maybe you just had a new baby and you're trying to juggle toddlers and nursing and all these different things. It looks like you're getting nothing done. Your kids are like learning nothing. But she said even on those days, your kids are learning amazing things, right? They're learning how to be more kind as they see you, be a little bit more patient and taking care of the kids. They learn how to be more independent because then they have to do some stuff and work by themselves. They might also have to help a younger sibling do something. So they're learning to be responsible and caring and patient in that way. So even if it's not this typical, we're sitting down doing our math, reading type of a school day, your kids are still learning so many wonderful things. And so she said not to discount all the things that your kids are learning, even when it might not seem like that, or when it's not your normal typical day. Something else that was great in here, she has a lot of wonderful resources. She creates lists in here for all these very simple, cheap activities you could have for tots, like little toddlers to do. And she just has pages. She has 1 to 2 year olds. She has 2 to 3, and then I think 3 to 4, and then there's a 4 to 5 as well. Just all these activities that you could do that are very simple, that aren't gonna cost a whole lot of money, and that your kids could be doing just so they're engaged, so you could focus on your other kids as well. So I really loved that aspect. There's a few lists in here that are just helpful. One of the things that I really wanted to mention about this book is also sort of a pet peeve of mine, and I love this quote because I just feel like it was so amazing. She's talking about self-care and how it's so important for you to make sure you get some self-care, even if it's a few minutes every day. But she said, no matter how busy you think you are right now, there's always room in your day for you. Busy is actually just a myth anyway. That's a line I really love. It says a person will always find time to do the things that matter most. So start admitting that you matter. So I love this idea that she wants you to focus on you and make sure that you are taken care of, because that's so important. Even if it's a few minutes a day, she loves reading. So as long as she could just get a few minutes of reading in every day, she was just a much happier person. But I also just love how it said busy is actually just a myth anyway, because I feel like we fill our lives with so many things, which she talks about as well, just because somebody else is doing it. That's our homeschool experience, and our life doesn't have to look just like our neighbors. We don't have to fill our lives with everything they fill their lives with. And we probably aren't even interested in all those things. So we need to focus on those things that interest us, interest our kids, and obviously aren't gonna break the bank either, you know, make wise decisions and allow us to still spend time together, not just running from activity to activity and just all over the place. And then people say I'm too busy, and it's more that they're just not, it's not important to them. The things that they're saying they're too busy for are not important to them, at least not important enough that they're willing to make time for them. And so make time for the most important things, and then make sure you're not just trying to be somebody else. You are unique and you're important, and I think you should just be you, and you should teach your kids in that special way that's you. And that's the last thing I want to mention. She wants you to think about why you homeschool and to shape your homeschool around those reasons, because it's going to look different for everyone. You know, some people just really wanted to be able to experience nature more as a family. Some, you know, maybe they do have something against, like strongly against public school. And maybe some of them just want to be able to sit down and read together more because that's interesting to them. Maybe they want to travel, you know, and be in a motorhome and do that kind of stuff. So why are you homeschooling? And make sure your homeschool experience reflects that, and that you're staying true to why you're doing what you're doing, instead of just doing it because that's what everybody else is doing, or this is what their homeschool or their homeschool looks like. So be you. And I just love that. I love that message, and just thought this was a great book. So those are my books for September. I enjoyed reading. I'm excited to read some more books this next month and to tell you about them. So if you like these videos, please give me a thumbs up, and I will see you next time.